Hey everyone, I wanted to hit up another interesting discussion topic that I saw being discussed not just on social media but a couple of forums as well, as a lot of people have kind of been discussing as of late tent restocking and potentially the option to go ahead and remove it altogether from the game, as a lot of people feel like it's become a little bit of a crutch for some players, while others feel like it's become an amazing quality of life improvement to the franchise. Later in the video, I'm also going to be discussing the Sunbreak's most recent weapon DPS tier list and its direct connection to some of the weapons that are currently benefiting the most regarding the removal of restocking your items via the tent. So in this video, I want to try to have a little bit of a discussion regarding that specific topic. I certainly want to hear your guys' feedback, so do leave a comment whether you are for tent restocking. Do you actually even use it? A lot of people certainly do not. They certainly don't even know that you have that as an option, and it has been since World. Or basically, are you like completely against it altogether? Do you want it to be removed, and what are your reasonings for that? So in multiple discussion topics that I saw being posted, there were plenty of people being for and against it. So I want to split this video in both halves. First, I want to talk about why we should be able to keep this and a lot of the positive talking points that I saw around the reason for keeping it. And then we're going to talk about why it should be removed altogether. So first and foremost, one of the biggest benefits that you have for being able to teleport back into the tent at any point in the middle of a hunt is that you can change your armor. You can pretty much set your loadouts pre-hunt. You can go back, you can change it. If you're hunting elementals or anything along those lines, you want to change your armor element, you want to change your weapon, whatever it might be, your decoration, anything along those lines, armor related, you can automatically do that in the middle of a hunt and have no problems, no drawbacks to that. Of course, you can also restock your items. So you can restock your ammos, we're going to be talking about that in a little bit. You can restock your potions, anything along those lines. If you didn't necessarily bring antidotes to a Puke fight, you should be automatically ready to go if you need them. Another benefit that you probably didn't necessarily know about is that you get full heals and full sharpness whenever you make your way back into the tent. So if you were not necessarily sharpening your weapon as a blade master, you make your way back into the tent, you instantly get sharpened up 100%, no problem, and your health gets topped off once again. Now, originally when this was introduced in World, a lot of people saw it as a benefit to new players, and one of the posts that I actually mentioned, it says that new players shouldn't be punished for not having hundreds of years of experience with the Monster Hunter franchise. Restocking simply lowers the skill floor and thus restricts the gatekeeping. If you're a new player to the franchise and it takes you 30 minutes to kill a monster with multiple restocks, why the hell would anyone even care? That's your personal experience and that's your way to victory. And certainly that is a valid point. One of the biggest benefits we have seen being added in, and probably one of the reasons why the Monster Hunter franchise has been more embraced in the West since World, and certainly with Rise and a continuation with Sunbreak, especially with Sunbreak, which saw a lot of quality of life improvements even from base Rise, is that it has embraced basically making hunts a little bit easier for everyone. Now, easier doesn't necessarily mean better. This is something that I've discussed in multiple videos already, where basically in Sunbreak they just threw in a bigger health pool for afflicted monsters, and they basically just hit harder but didn't necessarily tweak their AI. So at the same time, you can actually stun lock them, you can KO them, you can status them, you can knock them over. That's all well and good, and you can well at them for a little bit longer, but that doesn't necessarily make it a little bit more of a difficult hunt, having more artificial padding as monsters have more health. If the AI isn't necessarily tweaked, then there's just still the same typical monster as they were before. We now know that afflicted explosions, for example, are never putting most hunters in danger unless you're actually not paying attention, which is something that before Sunbreak launch, we kind of expected them to be dangerous, but they're not. So it's like artificial difficulties is also kind of connected to this entire tent restocking situation. Many actual adjustments could be made to combat that would actually alleviate some of these issues. And I think that actually gets us to the side of against. Are you completely against tent restocking completely altogether and it should be removed? And most of those arguments against it come from the difficulty standpoint. The first one is the little bit of conflicting narratives, I guess you could say, regarding the spirit birds, for example. So first and foremost, the spirit birds in Rise and in Sunbreak, you have to go out of your way to be able to pick them up, to be able to get boosted, to be able to get that extra stamina, to be able to get that extra defense, that extra attack. the extra health. You have to go out of your way pre-hunt to be able to get them. They're not just going to naturally come to you unless you actually have the skill available for you, which not everyone actually go ahead and picks up for whatever reason. You certainly should have it. It's only a 1 slot, I believe, so you should definitely make some room to be able to get that. At the same time, however, when it comes to like picking up materials, there's just no punishment whatsoever. You can just make your way back into the tent, refill completely, and there's like no actually you making your way out through the world to be able to gather materials so you can restock your bow gun, your bow, fill up your mega potions or anything along those lines. It's like for Spirit Burst, Capcom wants you to make your way out into the world and explore a little bit, but when it comes to actual items, it's like nah. We're gonna make sure you get them at the tent, and there's no problem whatsoever. So the question would be, well, why don't they just put that rainbow spirit bird pretty much in every single hunt, so the second you start a hunt, you could just automatically get that rainbow spirit bird, you max out your spirit bird benefits, and then you never have to worry about them again. Except they only do that in certain hunts. So I think this opens up the door for, if you're against making your way back into the tent at every single situation or in between every single monster, there could be a little bit of a limitation set into the game, so you don't necessarily have to do that, and people don't necessarily feel like they're being handled back damage wise. That could come in the way of a supply drop, essentially giving you 3 to 5 items that you're continually restocking, or at the very least you can only restock once before or after a hunt that you can save into the loadout. So if I bring in with me 10 items, I know at the very least 5 of them, for example, are going to get restocked whenever this supply drop is set to drop in the middle of a hunt. So I can actually go ahead and focus on ammo if that is what I want, or if I need potions, then I can go ahead and do that. Tougher Quest can certainly set that to random, so you don't actually have like the guaranteed ammo drops every single time. We also have the added benefit that Palamutes can now carry materials as well, and this is something that I think has been like haphazardly implemented, where it only works right now if you're gathering materials and you can use your Palamute to carry extra stuff for you before you go dump them back at the tent. But if you could actually set it up so you can bring your Palamute with you and it can actually carry another set of extra ammo, then you're just completely golden. Or do you want it to carry extra healing potions, or do you want it to carry with you, extra antidotes, or whatever it is that you need it to carry for you, then you should be, getting that benefit right out of the gate. Specifically when it comes to gunners, and this is coming from someone who's a gunner, I believe the number is that you cap out at 700 ammo of all types at the beginning of a hunt. So if you bring of all ammo types, you can cap out at 700. So that's a lot of ammo. But we know that you're not necessarily going to be using all ammo, because there's not that perfect bow gun or light bow gun or heavy bow gun or bow that is gonna like basically let you use all of those ammo. So it's kind of like pointless to have 700 of ammos that you're never gonna really max out DPS wise. I think elemental ammos cap out, I believe, at 180 is what I think saw someone mention. Sticky caps out, I believe, at 9, and then you can restock at 9 again. You can make more. And then I believe slicing caps out at 30, but then you can also restock at 30 as well if you craft more. So when it comes to like ammo stuff, is like I feel like that system is very antiquated. It hasn't necessarily been kept up with the way the game's kind of evolved. So maybe giving us the option to carry more ammo, or at the very least more crafting materials for more ammo, should be one of the ways to go to kind of adjust this, if the problem is DPS. But before we get into the DPS talk, I also want to make sure that I mention that for those people who need to armor swap because they just simply forgot to set up the armor before they started a hunt, there can certainly be a grace period of 3 to 5 minutes. Basically, as you start the hunt, you can still go in, change your armor, get your perfect loadout, and make your way back into the hunt without being punished. Certainly, you shouldn't be punishing people because they forgot to change their loadout or their armor set or whatever it might be. So certainly that should be a benefit. But when it comes to actual DPS, I want to show you a very quick chart showcasing the top DPSs, I believe, as of August. This is coming from mhrspeedrun.com, link in the description below for that. And they're basically showcasing the heavy bowgun, bow, and light bowgun are light years away DPS wise of pretty much every other weapon. Longsword, which has been long expected to be probably the most broken weapon in the game, is now 8th, I believe, numbers wise, DPS wise. So, you know, there's certainly something interesting when it comes to the way DPS has been tweaked when it comes to Sunbreak. Now, the reason why heavy bowgun is, what, 22 points ahead of bow and 30 points ahead of light bowgun is very simple. Heavy bowgun is abusing pierce damage right now. That is what everyone is running for bowgunners, and essentially heavy bowgun. And, you know, while I still think it's situational at best, you basically have to focus on perfect positioning every single time to maximize all the damage. The numbers don't lie. It is crushing it DPS-wise. Bow is still amazingly good. There's no drawbacks almost to any of it. And as someone who plays light bowgun, I'm extremely satisfied with the way that it's playing right now, even though, like I mentioned before multiple times, I play sticky and slicing ammo, and it is not the best highest top DPS damage anymore, but I'm completely satisfied with still continuing to play that way as long as I can keep myself in a healthy distance away from the monster, so I'm not being put into a bad situation where I know I'm going to be one-shotted regardless of anything that I do, because monsters, especially afflicted monsters, the later ones that we're seeing now, are hitting pretty dang hard. So a lot of the discussion around this whole limiting the tent situation is based on just the fact that, yes, bowgunners are like crushing it DPS wise, and one of the ways to limit their DPS is just to stop them from restocking ammo, and one of the ways to do that is by all the aforementioned ways that I mentioned at the top of the video. So, you know, if DPS is your base of concern, you know, limiting and, you know, going against tent restocking could certainly be one way to adjust the DPS for some of these, I think, really off the charts damage classes that, or weapons that right now are kind of just like crushing it damage wise. Every other weapon seems to be balanced. If you start to look at like anything from sword and shield all the way down even to hammer, the difference is like 12 DPS. That seems extremely balanced to me. So the only ones that are not necessarily in that range are switch axe, great sword, and of course bow and light and heavy bowguns. So certainly something needs to be done, I think, damage wise, to kind of bring them back to, you know, the norm, and then we can probably start to talk about them adjusting things a little bit better. And if tent restocking is one way to do that, then I'm completely for it, with the understanding that they could probably let us bring, you know, extra materials through the Palamute. Maybe a supply drop would be one way to go about it. Maybe just give us a chance to bring extra ammo for restocking or crafting in the middle of a hunt. We bring more materials, therefore we can craft more. All of these things can be adjusted. You know, people who are restocking constantly can just kind of go by the wayside, as it's kind of become a little bit of an issue according to some. But certainly I want to hear your guys' feedback on this. It's certainly an interesting discussion. I'm going to leave a link in the description below for the original topic that I saw kind of bring up this interesting conversation, and I certainly want to hear what you guys think. If you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up, and as always, thank you so much for watching.